I'm Emilie Lunt, and I believe with my whole heart and soul that our homes are places where we can seek and love the truth, celebrate beauty, and learn good things every single day. That's why I'm educating my kids at home, and I know you can do it too. Welcome to Heart and Soul Homeschool. Well, today I have my very favorite guest in the world, my husband, Jared Lunt. Jared, welcome back to Heart and Soul Homeschool.
Great to be here.
Well, we just kind of wanted to do a year in review of our homeschool year. Not that we have great wisdom to share necessarily, but we kind of changed up several little things this year that in retrospect, they didn't seem like a big deal at the time. But as we've kind of done our yearly recap together, we've realized that they actually kind of did move the needle in a positive way. And so we just thought we'd share a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we did this year, it was kind of in the spring. We were still finishing up our last year, but we went to a homeschool conference together. And we try to do that not every year, but every other year, I would say. And this year we went to Teach Them Diligently. It was in Branson, and that was really fun. We met up with a friend there. And it was just a really nice experience. What are your thoughts on that? Because you kind of, when we go to these, you kind of take a different track than I do.
Yeah, it was actually kind of fun because the friends that we met there, they have a daughter that's high school-ish age, so, 10 years ahead of where our kids are at.
Yeah.
And trying to just understand what next steps look like after high school, what that looks like for homeschool. I think it's changing all the time.
Drastically, quickly, the
yes,
options.
not only with options, but just, is college a thing, working? But I think there's a lot of colleges that are really bought in on catering to homeschoolers. So just kind of understanding how that works, what opportunities are there, see where it's trending is more kind of where I'm at, because you're in the day-to-day of
kind
the
of in
schooling.
the weeds of, yeah.
And so my goal is to kind of see where it goes and, how much money I have to save for college or don't save for
or
college.
not, right? Yeah. And so you enjoy kind of taking the track of the career and college and just seeing the options. There's a lot going on in the homeschool world with that. Like you just said, I'm hearing a lot about apprenticeships, a lot about sort of trade school and homeschool hybrids. It's really, really exciting. And so that was kind of a fun thing for us. You kind of were able to maybe start honing our vision for further down the road, while I was able to get, kind of that day-to-day tips. And we would recommend that people do that. Like we said, we don't do it every year, but I think at different times we've needed different things from a homeschool convention. And so we just thought that would be a good time to bring this up because in our state, we live in Missouri, the homeschool conventions start in March. And so those come up really quickly after the beginning of the year. So now's a good time to be thinking about that.
Well, and not only that, but I think it provides a kind of a opportunity to bring in people kind of in your orbit, into your world a little bit, kind of a non-threatening environment. This was a situation where our friends, they brought their mother-in-law and it just get to see what it's all about. That was one of the things we were blown away by. One of the first ones we went to, it's like, hey, everyone's pretty normal. This is great, and so anyone that has a hesitation that maybe in your family that you want to expose them to the homeschool world, bring them with you.
Yeah. I had that on my list to talk about because I think that was really eye-opening and helpful to their family. Just allowed the grandparents to come along in a more in-depth way, maybe after they saw that, just to understand how amazing homeschooling really is and all of the options, and that it isn't just this kooky fringe movement. It's really high quality. So I think that was great. The second thing that we did after the summer is we, for the very first time, made an actual homeschool room in our house. And so that kind of fell on you a little bit, the DIY project. We tell them what we did because it wasn't, well, I guess that's why I wanted to bring it up, is because we said it was a small change, and truly it was. So we have a formal dining room in our house that the kids have used for a playroom up until now. And so I finally got over putting away the little kitchen set that I maybe liked more than the kids ever did, but it wasn't getting played with. And so we kind of put some of the toys away that weren't getting used and made room. And so I think, to me as the mom, when I see on Instagram or on Pinterest all these homeschool rooms, they're really elaborate and it feels overwhelming. But tell everybody just what we did. It was really simple.
Yeah, kind of rearranged some furniture, got a couple new chairs really on a table that we inherited. I think 4 screws and 2 blocks of wood made the table a little more sturdy. It's this table that my mom and dad have passed around the family since they were married. It's kind of old and rickety, but Jared kind of shored that up. We bought some chairs at IKEA. And then a light fixture
Updated
and
light
6
fixture.
light bulbs, and we
We
were
were
off
ready
to
to
the
roll.
races.
Yeah, we just kind of repurposed furniture that we had around the house and bookshelves and that kind of thing. But it's been a really good thing, I think, especially for me, because we saw a big jump. Our daughter moved from 2nd to 3rd grade, and we saw a big jump in her needs. Just the curriculum was a little bit more time consuming. We just needed a space, and working out of the cart at the kitchen table wasn't really working.
And there's an environment too. If it was now a dining room, you might want to wear sunglasses because it's pretty
really bright.
But that's a good environment for learning.
Yeah, it's bright and cheerful and just simple. I mean, I think we probably spent less than $200 on the whole.
Yeah, and on a rainy day outside, it doesn't feel like a rainy day inside.
Yeah, it's just kind of cozy. And so that has, I can say, made a huge atmosphere change in our homeschool, and I really have appreciated that. The other thing, and again, this is probably more me, but you've appreciated certain elements of this. I went back to having a real morning time, or some people call it morning basket. We had done that the first couple of years. I was really diligent about that, to sit down with the kids in the morning and kind of do the true, the good, the beautiful things. And last year we had some schedule changes. We added a couple things, and our mornings were just more hectic. And so I slowly just let that get away from us. This year I bought a curriculum from Julie Ross at the Gentle Feast, which I've absolutely loved. It has music, art, Bible, all of the good and beautiful subjects that we love to do, and that's really helped me keep us on track. It's a great way to start our day, and I think the kids have really enjoyed it. But you like another element that I've added to that a lot.
Yeah, I don't know who puts it on.
The World Watch.
The World Watch, like a 15, 20-minute news
10 to
program.
15, I'd say, yeah.
And it's not for little kids necessarily, but our kids just really, they don't hardly blink.
Yeah, they love it. So I think it's geared, like you said, for older kids, and I kind of shied away from it because we have a 5 and an 8-year-old. But they really enjoy watching World Watch News every day, and it's been a really fun thing, I think, because it's brought you into our homeschool a little bit more. You like to discuss things at dinner with them that they saw. It's been a good bonding thing for our family.
Yeah, and I usually follow the news fairly closely, so it's amazing what they pick up and what piques their interest, and things that you would think they would get excited about, they doesn't really land with them, and then other things, well, what's so special about this spaceship, and so it's really fun.
Yeah, it's been a really neat thing. So that's another little change that we've made. The other things, and these might kind of go together. So you recently changed jobs. And so we've been in the last, I would say, maybe 6 months since the summer, we've really been kind of reevaluating our time commitments as a family. And I can say that I was maybe, I don't know if you would say overcommitted at church, but I had a lot of commitments at church and just things that were taking up a lot of time and energy and mental space. And so knowing that you were going to be having a big change at work, a good change, a positive change, we kind of, at the beginning of the fall, just kind of cleared the decks, and I stepped away from some commitments that I had. And that's been a really good thing for our family, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. There's just, there's a tendency when you have younger kids to get involved in everything. And I think we have been fairly good about that on like the sports side of things. But church-wise, it's an even more of a commitment for the parents, because it's, it wasn't a drop them off and just let them run type of thing.
I was teaching a lot of things.
So you took on a pretty heavy load of managing that. And one of the things that homeschoolers, I don't think everyone really puts in perspective is, you're at home with our kids all day. So committing to an evening with everyone else's kids is
like
kind of a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not that I think I don't ever want to do that. I had just reached a point, and I think it's been a healthy thing for me and for our family in general, just for me to kind of realize that, because I realized that I was modeling sort of my mom life after my mom, not taking into account that we were going to school all day. And my mom was a wonderful mom, a wonderful homemaker, and she volunteered a lot, always had a job that she was doing. She wasn't sitting around eating bonbons, so I don't want to imply that. But I think just physically being with their kids, being their teacher, being everything 24/7, and then, like you said, taking on the responsibility of a lot of other people's kids, like, we need a break from that. And I think sometimes we can feel guilty about that, but you really encouraged me.
And as our kids get more self-sufficient, that changes. They're just at that stage in life where it's a lot of engagement all day long. They're not going to want to sit around and talk to us all day forever.
Right.
So there will be a change at some
sad,
point.
yeah.
But as it stands right now, it's kind of overwhelming emotionally to go in and then spend your evenings. And quite honestly, our kids go to bed pretty early.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit later night than we were
So
used
what
to.
I found, though, that I really enjoyed is that I just, obviously still go to church. And then I found some really fun little, like short-term projects that I get to do on Wednesday night. So I'm still getting to serve in the church. I'm still getting to help out. But it's not that just deep commitment.
Right.
Which in retrospect kind of prepared us for the change with your job because you've been traveling a lot more than you had previously. And so in retrospect, I feel like that was a really good thing that we kind of cleared the deck so that I'm available to kind of take on more at home just during the season when we were having this change. So we would just, I think, encourage everyone just to take a hard look at what you're doing and make sure that it's like, I did a Bible study several years ago. I think it was by Lisa Turkerson. It was called The Best Yes. And so there are a lot of good things we can do and a lot of good yeses, but we want to make sure we're saying like the best yeses.
Well, and part of what our thought process was with homeschooling was just kind of have a little bit more control, not only over our kids' education, but our lives. So not beholden to a schedule. And we keep a pretty tight schedule, but we aren't rushing off and we aren't stressed every morning trying to make sure we get 4 of us out the door by 6:30 every morning. So what we kind of lost track of was just on the back end of that a little bit was what does that look like in
because we
the
technically
evening?
had the time
right,
and we were home. I think that's just a really good thing to think through, and it's one of those things that, like you just said, it creeps up on you.
And it's fortunately our kids aren't super sporty at this point, and at some point we'll get involved in some sports and things like that. But we just kind of always come back to what does this do for our family? And if we're doing all these things all week, do we want to be at practices all night, or do we want to be together in the evenings?
Yeah, and we usually at this point with a 5 and 8-year-old think the most valuable thing is probably just like our family flexibility. Yeah. So this last one kind of goes along with that. And again, it's not about extravagance, kind of like the schoolroom, but we, for the first time in, what did we decide? Like 3 years?
3.5 years.
3.5 years took a real vacation. And that kind of goes along with your job. So you had a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, so I had a job where I was a salesperson, and I traveled a lot, and COVID kind of changed the cadence of how much I had to travel. Plus, I got to know what I was doing, so I was able to do a lot of things over the phone that I used to have to travel for. Right. So quite a bit of flexibility. And
you work from home.
And I work from home. Yeah. Yep. So, but kind of with that, the catch-22 of being in sales is if you have a cell phone, you are at work. And I hadn't done a good job of putting the phone down and committing to a vacation without work.
Or just truly. So, and we realized kind of at the same time that homeschooling offers that same flexibility. And so, we were in a position where on a Friday afternoon, if we were done with school and your work was kind of slowed down, we would just jump in the car and run up to our farm and play for the afternoon. And so we felt like we were constantly having little vacations with all that flexibility, but we did realize that we weren't ever truly stopping, truly taking a break and kind of refreshing and regrouping as a family.
Right. And that was a big thing for me to understand, was that I took a week and a half, almost 2 weeks, and just totally disengaged from it. And that was way better for all of us than I anticipated it would be.
I don't think we realized how much the stress of like our lifestyle, even though it didn't look stressful necessarily because of all that built-in flexibility, I don't think we realized how much pressure we had on both of us. And so just that opportunity to just truly step away from school, step away from work, and we jumped in the car. What was it, like 62 hours that we spent in the car? We drove across the country and had a really, really great time, and just enjoyed every second of that. We put away the screens. We put away the phones. Like, our kids didn't spend any time on screens during that.
They watched like a 2-minute clip of Andy Griffith.
Yeah, when we stopped through Mount Airy where Andy Griffith was born, we let them watch a 2-minute clip of the Andy Griffith show so they would know what we were seeing. But besides that, it was just really relaxing. And so I think our lesson learned from that and what we're going to try to practice in the future is just like true rest as a family, even though we're together all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think a lot of families use vacation as like we're apart all the time, we're going to be together, and we've got to kind of like almost next level that up, I think we realized, because like we are together all the time. And so we need to like step away from where we're together all the time.
And
really
luckily
regroup.
for Emily, my favorite vacation spot is not glamorous, but Wisconsin. A week in Wisconsin will definitely calm me down.
In the summer it's pretty great when we've got like 105 degrees here and there in the 80s. We enjoy that. So those are just kind of some of the things that we, as we look back on 2024, that we realize helped us as a family, helped us in our homeschooling, and that we're going to try to, I would say, incorporate going forward. So not that we have some kind of great wisdom, not that we're experts, but just little lessons that we've learned. We hope they'll encourage you. And as we come to the end of the year, I think it's a natural time just to kind of evaluate.
Well, and I think one of the shout outs, I guess, for everyone this applies to, 2020 just changed everything for everyone. And we did things differently. We made compromises as far as like how we spent our time. And so it was a nice reset to say, hey, things are back to normal. And this is what we want normal to look like going forward for us.
Yeah, I think this was the first time that we kind of felt that, like we were far enough away. We've had a chance to process through it and kind of like caught our breath after that experience. And so I would say, I think you're right. Yeah, that this is kind of our first time that we felt like that was a quote unquote normal year. And we're really excited and looking forward to 2025 because of that. Yeah. So thanks for hearing us out on this one. I hope you enjoyed our little chat, and I hope you'll join me next week for the next episode of Heart and Soul Homeschool.
Heart and Soul Homeschool is a podcast presentation of the Herzog Foundation. The views and opinions expressed on the show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the views of the Herzog Foundation. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode of Heart and Soul Homeschool.